What up, dude bros? I'm Frank. This is a video review of the Nerf Elite Rayvenfire. The Rayvenfire in the Elite line is a magazine-fed, flywheel-powered, semi-automatic blaster. And if it looks pretty familiar, it's just a Rayven reskin. The Rayven was discontinued and the prices soared on eBay to over $150 US. And there's a lot of outcry from the Nerf community saying, hey, why'd you delete the Rayven? It was a really fun blaster. I liked it. Bring it back, Hasbro. And they did. They're actually listening to us. Yay! So this blaster is just a Rayven reskin, but I'm gonna review it anyways. External overview, starting up with the front. It has an in-strike attachment nozzle, so you can attach your in-strike barrels. Above that, two sling mounts, then an in-strike tactical rail with a built-in carry handle right below, very similar to the Rapid Strike. Down to the trigger, this is a semi-automatic blaster. It fires one at a time, just like the Strife or the Modulus. It's not an electronically controlled semi-auto. It's mechanical, and it works on a fly-by-wire system, and because this is a bullpup with that wire system, there's a little bit of slop and additional tension in the trigger pull. A bullpup is a blaster or a gun with the loading mechanism or like magazine behind the trigger mag, where a non-bullpup would have the magazine right here in front of the trigger. That's more traditional. Advantage of a bullpup is it has a much longer barrel with a very small profile, so it's like CQB worthy and just more efficient in space. There's a good argument in the firearm world for them, but on a flywheel blaster it adds absolutely nothing whatsoever, because those barrels of course aren't generating pressure like how a firearm functions. A flywheel blaster just simply doesn't work that way, but it's cool, it's tactical. There's ergonomics there that people really dig the Rayven because of that bullpup feel in it. Not objectively better, but some people really dig it. Moving on, below the primary trigger, of course, is the rev trigger. It is a flywheel blaster. And being a flywheel blaster, of course, it doesn't work without the batteries. The battery tray is over here. You remove the single screw, then install 4 AA alkaline batteries and reinstall the battery plate. To the Rayven's grip, it's ergonomic and smooth, but because it's a thumbhole stock and a smaller one at that, it is a little tight, which is more or less an inherent property of thumbhole stocks. When you put your thumb through something, your wrist just naturally rests on whatever you just put your finger in. Wow. And for some people that can feel restricting if you want to be able to move your wrist more freely. It's not as cramped as like a Rebel blaster, but it's not as open and free as a non-thumbhole stock blaster like a Strife. But a pretty comfortable grip, so I'm not complaining about it like I normally do. Then up on the side of the blaster we have another in-strike tactical rail, so obviously you'd be running your sniper scope up here, your awesome sniper barrel on the front, and then a tac light on the side, because a tactics. Moving back to the magazine, well, of course it is compatible with in-strike magazines. It includes a new 10-round mag. To remove the magazine, you hit the magazine release, which is located right here. The included magazine holds 10 rounds. One half is opaque or like non-see-through, solid color, white, and the other half is just transparent. I think it looks pretty cool. Unfortunately, mine arrived damaged, so I can't really use it. Nerf mags have two halves that are like mated. They have a little clip system, but they also rely on the adhesive that they're like glued together. And my adhesive unfortunately broke, so I actually have to squish my magazine together and tightly clamp it and then shove it in the mag well if I want to fit it in there, but it doesn't reliably feed. I've broken plenty of magazines when I throw them all over my floor when I'm doing 430 dart challenges and stuff, but I've never received one out of the box like this. So I have to assume that's a limit and that's not just going to be a normal Rayvenfire thing. Up above the magazine well is the access door. You can pull up on that to clear out any jams. I fired the blaster a few hundred times with other magazines because again this one doesn't work for me, and I didn't have any jams or malfunctions, but the access door is there in case you do. Then in the rear there are 2 sling attachment points, so you have sling attachment points kind of all over the place, so you can do different configurations or run it right or left-handed, 3-point sling and go full ambi, like super tactical. But that's it for the overview. Like I said, it's the same as the Rayven, but it's white. And shooting it works just like any other flywheel blaster. You load up the magazine, assuming you have batteries in, you put that in, hit the rev trigger, and then pew pew. Nerf Elite darts. And faster. Shooting the Rayvenfire is just as expected. It works like most other flywheel blasters on the market right now. And I put the blaster up in my chronograph and I got an average of about 65 feet per second, which is pretty close to the Elite par of about 70 feet per second, but just a hair under. But overall, no jams or malfunctions to speak of. The chrono velocity is what you should expect out of most blasters right now. So the objective performance is there, and I personally like the ergonomics of the Rayven. I think it's a fun blaster to play with. It's especially tactical. And that's just an inherent property of bullpups in my opinion. I think they just look cooler when you put all your attachments in a barrel on on or something. And I know plenty of people out there agree with me because the price of the Elite Rayven, the blue ones, hyped up over $150 US at one point because they were discontinued by Hasbro and people still wanted them. However, this one is still overpriced in my opinion. It's a Kohl's exclusive and Kohl's overcharges on all of their toys. It's absurd. I'll put a link in the description box below. I really hope, you know, these leak out onto Amazon or some other wholesaler puts them up at a reasonable cost because $60 for a Rayven is absurd. And comparing it to the blue Elite one, now I never really used the glow mag, but I kind of like the blue colors better. The weird decals on the side of this thing, I feel like it's too Fast and Furious-y, like kind of tacky stickers. The blue one looks a bit more elegant. Yeah, I just used elegant to describe a Nerf gun. What have I become? And being a Kohl's exclusive, being way overpriced, I feel like Kohl's had a hand in the art design because they totally skimped out on the other side. The Rayvenfire is packaged in an open box so a consumer can look at the actual product, and I'm sure some Kohl's D-bag was like, hey, they can't see the other side, let's not waste any time designing or painting it. But compared to all the tacky racing stripes on this side, I kind of like that. It's plain and simple. And now that I have both, all of my attachments will match one or the other. It's either white or blue pretty much for the barrels and scopes and all of that stuff. But enough of my opinion, no jams or malfunctions, 65 FPS chrono average, fun ergonomics, it's a Rayven reskin. If we can work on hacking that price down to something reasonable, I think this will be another go-to flywheel blaster. Because strifes are getting harder and harder to come by, but did I read a modulus strife? So Hasbro's bringing out the Rayven because people were outraged when they discontinued it. People have been throwing a hissy fit since they've discontinued the Strife. Rightfully so, BT dubs, Flywheel Master Race, the Strife is the bomb diggity. And now they're responding, bringing out the modulus Strife. So they're listening to us and doing what we request of them. How awesome is that, bros? Too far off topic. That's my review of the Rayvenfire. Thanks so much for watching, bros, and as always, stay tactical.